The defending champion Los Angeles Lakers are one of the most formidable teams in the NBA this season. Really, the only thing that's giving some analysts pause in picking them for a second straight NBA title is their depth in the front court. If we're being honest, the signing of Marc Gasol to be the Lakers' starting center hasn't worked out. Gasol has a list of NBA accolades a mile long. But this year, more than ever, he's showing that his offense and his defense is nowhere close to what it used to be. To make matters worse, Anthony Davis has been out for a month with a strained calf and won't make his return to the lineup for at least a couple more weeks. That leaves Montrezl Harrell and Markieff Morris as the Lakers' two best frontcourt options. Things are so dire that the Lakers had to sign NBA journeyman Damian Jones to the roster. For as much as a team who has LeBron James on it can have problems, the Lakers have problems. That's why reports say the team is intent on upgrading their big man rotation via a trade or signing a player who gets bought out in free agency. This video explains what the Lakers' options are and how it could happen. Hey, it's Troy. If you're new, subscribe and make sure those notification bells are turned on. Fresh and quality NBA content several times a week on this channel. Make sure to leave a like while you're here too. Only takes a second and makes a big difference with the channel. I'd appreciate it. Marc Gasol left it all out on the floor for Memphis, and I'm always going to be a big fan of his no matter where he plays. But we got to be honest. While Big Spain still does some things well, he has not been the key addition the Lakers had hoped he would be. He's averaging about 5 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists for the whole season. He's a former All-Star, but he's 36 years old now, and at this point in his career, looks to be better suited as a guy who comes off the bench for about 15 minutes a game and plays more based on the opposing matchup. Fortunately for the Lakers, though, there are tons of options that they can seek out through a trade or free agent signing that can bolster the team and fortify their roster, leading into what is expected to be a long playoff run. So I want to lay out several names that the Lakers have a chance of getting on their roster. I'm going to start with what I consider to be the best case scenario for the Lakers, and that is a trade for Kristaps Porzingis of the Dallas Mavericks. There have been rumors for the last several weeks that the Mavericks are willing to include KP in a trade due to his contract and his injury history. Porzingis was supposed to be that number 2 option behind Luka Doncic, but the Mavericks haven't taken that expected leap this year, and to me, Porzingis looks more like a number 3 guy on a really good team. A Porzingis trade would allow Dallas to bring in some young talent around Luka and clear out some extra cap space in the process. And yeah, I know this is unlikely to happen, but if the Lakers could find a deal that included young players and picks, then Dallas might see the deal as too good to pass up. Porzingis would give the Lakers a new big 3 with Braun and the Brow. KP would add a new wrinkle to the Lakers' offense. And on the other side of the ball, he would take the Lakers' already awesome defense up another few notches. I would consider a trade for Porzingis unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out 100%. So that's if the Lakers trade for another big man. But I will say that the player or players the Lakers bring in will likely come via a free agent signing. In this scenario, I think the big prize would be Andre Drummond, who's currently on the Cleveland Cavaliers roster. Drummond, though, hasn't played in a few weeks after he and the Cavs agreed that he'd stay away from the team while they look for a trade. The issue, though, is that with Drummond's large contract, it's hard to make a trade. That's why I think if the trade deadline passes and he's still a Cavalier, a buyout is going to come, and the Lakers will be one of the first teams to call. So what would another AD on the roster add? Well, this AD, Andre Drummond, is quite possibly the best rebounder in the league. He would provide the Lakers with an athletic rim protector who can play solid minutes while Anthony Davis is out, and he would be able to provide an impact in the playoffs against bigger matchups. He would get legit minutes on this team, and he would be an insane acquisition if indeed he's bought out. There's also been a lot of talk about LaMarcus Aldridge of the San Antonio Spurs. Like with Andre Drummond, the Spurs and Aldridge agreed to part ways while they find him a trade to a team that would be a better fit at this point for his career. Aldridge isn't your traditional type of center, but he still would add some veteran leadership and some different skills to a Lakers lineup, especially coming off the bench. He's not the player that he once was, but I think adding Aldridge to the team through a buyout would be a winning move for a team that's hard up for talented big men. The Lakers could also choose to look about 400 miles to the north and Hassan Whiteside. He signed with the Sacramento Kings late in free agency and is playing low minutes on a rebuilding Kings team. Whiteside's numbers are definitely lower this year, but when you look at those numbers on a per 36-minute basis, they're actually in line with his past seasons. Remember, Whiteside is only one season removed from averaging 15 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks with the Blazers last season. Next, maybe the Lakers just need to go with what's worked before. How about JaVale McGhee? He was traded to the Cavaliers last offseason and has actually been pretty solid for them in a backup role. McGhee would slide in on the Lakers as a fourth big who could bring defense, rebounding, shot blocking, and big-time size. He's also well-liked by the Lakers organization, and he wouldn't have much of a learning curve when rejoining the team. There's also talk of the Lakers being interested in Houston Rockets big man PJ Tucker. Houston is in full tank mode, and Tucker is away from the team while they decide where to trade him or buy him out. He's got the size and length to create mismatch potential, and he has the tools to be a multi-positional defender who can give opponents a tough time around the perimeter. Tucker is the type of player who is not going to move the needle too much for a rebuilding team, but on a team like the Lakers with championship aspirations, he'd be an important piece in the regular season and in the playoffs. Finally, this next idea might be a little off the wall, but I think it would work. And that's a trade for Gorgui Dieng of the Memphis Grizzlies. And a lot of you likely haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to Gorgui Dieng this season, or maybe you even forgot he was on the Grizzlies. But in addition to pretty solid averages, Gorgui is shooting lights out from the field, both from 2 and from 3. He's only 31 years old, but on an expiring contract of about $17 million, he's probably a little bit overpaid. Still, Gorgui Dieng should be an appealing target for teams in need of a big man who isn't dead weight in any area. And maybe it's just the homer in me, but I'd love to see some sort of trade centered around Marc Gasol and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for Gorgui Dieng. It would give the Lakers a very serviceable big man that's going to leave it all out on the floor every single night. And it would send Marc Gasol back to the Grizzlies where he could retire in Beale Street Blue. I think everybody would be happy. That's what I think, but I need you guys to tell me in the comments what you think about any of these potential moves. If you're a Laker fan, then you gotta comment on this video and let me know where you're at. Be sure and leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed it. It really helps out the channel. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any of the content that I've got coming down the line. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, my name is Troy. I'll see you next time on the Half Court Report.